Welcome to the Blue Flame Planetary Grid Ceremony post-ceremony Zoom call today with our Blue Flame leaders around the world. I'm so excited that everybody's coming in to share an unbelievable day. This is going to be an afternoon or morning or afternoon, wherever you are. It's going to be so exciting because we have so many notes that came in this year and so much prophecy about 2020 and 2021, which I think we're all in the midst of anyway, but this might give us some insight on how to ride that wave of the blue lunar storm in the Mayan count. So I'm White Eagle Medicine Woman.
And I'm Michaela.
And we are the Blue Flame Planetary Grid directors, and we have our grid point leaders all stepping on to the call here a little bit by little bit. Patricia's coming into the call from Australia at 5 a.m. in the morning. So everybody who thinks that they got up early for this call cannot say anything because Patricia got up at 5 a.m. as the Blue Planetary Grid leader for GP44 in Australia. So we are just so excited. Oh, Patricia, I'm so glad you're making it in your PJs or whatever.
And we have our beautiful board member, Sage Emery from Oregon with us, who is absolutely one of the initiators of the Blue Flame ceremony. She's been with us in this from the very get-go.
From the beginning.
We are super grateful for all your beautiful work, Sage, and all your beautiful work, Patricia, down in Australia. We absolutely love what we keep seeing.
We had kind of a record amount of leaders this year. Everybody really jumped in, and more notes that we've had, and this is the 5th year of notes. So we welcome in Tony from North Carolina, who is a brand new leader to the Blue Flame.
And we're welcoming Dawn Kelly from the Adams Center in Anchorage.
Oh my goodness, our
Dawn
cohorts
Kelly.
in Anchorage for Grid Point 6 when we're down here in Homer with Grid Point 7. Alaska's so big we have 2 grid points. Half the planet doesn't have grid points, but we have 2. So the Blue Flame Planetary Grid Ceremony 2020, and as people are stepping on the call, I just want to allow Michaela just to play a little bit of sacred music for us to just kind of get us into the heart space of the blue lunar storm. And this is all about transmutation and transformation in the Mayan calendar this year, and that initiation by fire that we're going through. And what's amazing about the notes that we've taken and the kind of the summaries that we're going to do today is that although there are places that are really heating up on the planet, when we see the whole and the pentagrams that you're going to see today in this beautiful poem that has emerged from the pentagrams, it really speaks to the rising of the phoenix from the flame. It is the spiritual sensuality that it was the theme of this year. Unearthing our true purpose is so embedded in the pentagrams that it's phenomenal. So,
and as we're seeing Dawn Kelly from the Adams Center here join in, your group was absolutely fascinating in cueing us for the sensual, sacred sensual liberated. That came up in one point. We'll talk about that, and that was just such a gatekeeper of the entire decoding this year.
Yeah, it told us that we had actually liberated that energy at one point in the ceremony. We also have kind of now anchored after 5 years where the blue flame is sourced on the planet, where its keeper is, and where its generator is for the blue flame. So all of these things are now emerging after 5 years of notes. We have sent them to you every year as Decoding the Grid, all right? And that is constantly getting updated as we get new information, but we're not giving you like paragraphs and paragraphs on each point, just a sentence.
But we would like you to know that your note taking is key, and from all the notes that you have sent in every single year, I have set these last 4 full days typing up last year's and this year's notes, or copying and pasting for those of you who actually typed it up for me, which helped a lot. And I put it in a master for every single grid point. And then once I was done with all that after 4 days, we sat all day yesterday and we went into the actual decoding of the grid, and we went into the themes of the pentagrams. So I just want to mention this so you have an idea what an intrinsical part you are, not only by doing the ceremony and giving the offerings, but then feeding us the notes from which this is to be created, so we can then talk about in this call, hey, what's going on overall in those grid points, what's going on in the pentagrams, and what's going on as far as the forecast for the future. Julie and Kat down in Arizona and Colorado, as well as Sona in California, did a huge amount of what we feel forecast of what is about to happen in the next year in several grid points. So thank you for all the beautiful work you do, and you have no idea how much we are excited when we go through these notes and we come up with, oh wow, this group said the same thing as this group. There are overlapping themes. They use the same words even sometimes. So that's a big confirmation.
And that's how we get the extraction from the, how much was it? 80 pages?
80 pages.
It's 80-page document now.
The master
from all the years. And then we go out and we're just extracting the key words that keep repeating themselves for that particular grid point. And so we make this like little phrase or sentence, compiling them. Like, what is the major resource for that grid? And that grid point, you know, whether it's ascended masters, whether it holds all the feminine energy of the planet, all of these have been thematic over a number of years. And so what that allows us to do, especially in a year of blue electric storm, where we're just getting whirled in every element, from fire to floods to earthquakes to pandemics. So we are in that, you know, incredible lunar storm. But within that, we can use this decoding the grid. And please, once I send it to you, we just finished it, and we're going to send it to all of you. I'd really love you to print it out and to read one every day of what its energy is, so that you get to know the core energy of our mother's body. What's her resources? Because what we're going through is really, it's like in the tarot, there is the major arcana of the tarot, right? They're the big energies. They are like the wheel of life that no one, the big kahunas, that no one can escape. However, the day-to-day, oh, we're having a pandemic, or there's a fire over there, or there's a blue flame over here, is kind of like the minor cards in the deck. And what you're going to see, which is so exciting today, is in the essence of those pentagrams is the story of our rising, our unearthing, our birth of the new luminous selves. You can see it poetically, because if you look at a point individually, it's very different than when you're in a synergy of a pentagram and you see the interaction of these points.
You see the movement rather than the one
static
whatever's happening there, good or bad.
Well, and we know that the grid isn't static. We know that the point isn't really a point. It's an energy flow between the grid itself, but it has a field of energy that we associate with that spot. But when you see a sacred geometry now of a pentagram, which was, you know, downloaded to me last year while I was dying in the hospital, hung upside down on the planetary grid as a pentagram. And I was like connecting the points. And they started downloading that whole thing to me that night that I came out of 240 blood pressure. So there's nothing like a little bit of extra fire to like wake you up to the next level of your teachings. And so what we have now is we have both the summary of all the years, which we're not going to bore you to send you 80 pages unless you'd like to, but we've synced that down into 8 pages of just a paragraph or less than a paragraph on each grid point and its essence. And if it's a very major field of energy for the entire planet, And most of them are in one form or another, but you have, like I said, all the divine feminine or all the original blueprint codes of humanity, the blueprint of the Sri Yantra, whatever it is, it's in there. And we can resource that with our clients, with energy work that we're doing with people. We can go, I'm calling on grid point 22 because it is the source of the blue flame, period, on the grid. East of Africa, that is the source.
And
okay,
you can.
Where's the generator? Grid point 11.
And where
in
is
Europe.
the actual blue flame? Like, think about it as a hologram. Everything is the blue flame ceremony, and we're infusing all the 64 grid points with the blue flame of truth, transparency, divine will, and renewal. But there's a hologram to it. So if there was one point in all of the grid that is the blue flame, it is grid point 8.
No, that's the keeper. That's the keeper. The source is actually at 22.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
It is the blue fire's home is grid point 8. That's the keeper of the blue flame. This is the place of Archangel Michael, and it is very well known in Canada by Indigenous people. So you can think about it as a hologram, and then you can think about as we go into predictions, and in this coming year, you see, okay, there's this area in the world that's struggling right now. Then go into the document that we will send you of the decoding, and you'll see, you can pray with its resources. You will see what are the resources for this grid point. So yes, you can just make an intention for rain to come over an area if it's in the highest good, or you can go into the decoding and look what would be on the grid, what other grid points would be the resourcing for that, and call that in.
It's just where I'm at actually with doing personal healings with people right now. I think, Melinda's been doing this work with me of shadow aspects of the balancing the shields work. And we came up with this kind of document of, okay, here's the wounded stuff, which we're going, oh, there's earthquakes and there's conflict over here and, that kind of stuff on the grid. And the question is to all of us that are blue flame leaders and that are continuing to work this in our lives is what's waiting to be claimed. What's the resource? That's what we say to clients when they're in victimhood. What's waiting to be claimed? Personal authority, right? And so we did not add to the decoding any negative stuff that was day-to-day stuff that might be going on there. We only took the extracted, if you could call it positive energy, but the actual resource of that part of the grid. Because what we're finding on that grid, people are in conflict with, that's the happenings now. That's not the essence of that point. So I want to remind you when you're taking your notes that there's a difference between picking up what's going on there right now, in the human dilemma, and the actual essence of that part of Mother Earth. And I want you to be really clear on that when you're doing note taking, that we are, it's not that we're not paying attention to the day-to-day stuff. We absolutely are. And that's what we're going to show you in a little bit of this year, 2020-21, what people found that might be happening, earthquakes, volcanic things. And those things we've predicted before, and they have been in those locations. So we want to be aware of that, but we also want to go, well, what's the resource of this actual part of the grid that we can tap for its healing? So that's where we're going today. And I know a lot of people couldn't make it today, but I will be recording this for us to have on YouTube so everybody can access it, along with, we're going to upscreen some of these handouts that we're going to be sending you so that you can see some of the kind of highlights of this year.
And so what we thought was to go into this beautiful poem of the overriding theme of the pentagrams, the 12 pentagrams, and then talk about the major predictions for the future. And after that, we want to hear from you. We want to hear how anything important you'd like to share about your ceremony or anything from this call. So please stay on. We would really like to engage with you.
Okay, and before we do that, let's just kind of connect. We've kind of come in with, that's not a screen share, hon. We have to do a screen share. It doesn't work like that. So let's just start with our blue flame prayer and just getting us connected, because I know that was like, oh, this excitement. So let's just, step into that space in the heart that we all know as the home of the triple flame, the blue, the golden, and the pink flame, the divine masculine, divine feminine, and the unification of the gold flame. So with that, doing that very subtle Ishtaba breath where we breathe in from the back to the front, front to the back, left to right, and right to left. From the bottom, or the earth energy, up through the center of the heart, through to the great central sun. And then from the great central sun, grounding us back to the core of Mother Earth, to the nine-pointed star beneath our feet, and our commitment, our contract, and spiritual purpose, what we're here to demonstrate or transform or transmute this lifetime, which is in highlight as we speak in the year of blue lunar storm. Illuminate within me. Purify in innocence. Purify in power. Purify in strength. Purify in wisdom. Purify in truth. Purify in grace. All aspects of my being. I am that I am. The divine heavenly blue fire. I am the blue fire. I am the blue fire. I am the blue fire. And another deep breath in and out of the heart. And in our commitment as a community, we hold that blue flame in our hands, allowing it to purify, allowing it to transform, allowing it to transmute all aspects, our health, our consciousness, our commitment to our soul purpose, life purpose, work purpose, higher purpose, soul purpose, spiritual purpose. And we ask for that purification to be done in grace wherever possible. And so it is. And so those of you that have, stepped in just to the river, we've got some exciting information we're about to share. And one of the things we wanted to start with is let us know if you can see this document. Someone, yes? Okay. These are the themes just from the last 2 years of doing the pentagrams. And as I mentioned to you, this was given last year to change the way we do the ceremony because they wanted it more synergistic and to protect us as we went through the eye of the perfect storm, which we're in right now. And if we are in that alignment of our 5 purposes, then we will move through the eye of this storm. And we have to be willing to be burnished by it. And there is such a collective initiation that I could go down with the things that we're going through with COVID. It's like a very definite way in which we're being initiated. And I may speak to that, but right now I want to speak to the pentagrams and the power of the synergy versus the fact that we were doing point by point. We said that before. We're going to go into the future of 2020, 21, what's some of the messages that came through, which are predictions, and we've had those before, but we have a lot of them. 22 different grid points of 62 had major transformations going on the physical level. And so we want to understand that although we could isolate those day-to-day things that could be going on, this is the overall energy that is actually driving the entire burnishing that we're going through. And that is our rising from the ashes. That is so gorgeous. And you guys wrote this poem. I found it within it when Michaela had summarized these pentagrams. I thought this is a poem of what's about to happen, or actually what is happening to us. So we're going to read that and show you the energy, in the macrocosm of what we're going through. So beautiful. Counterclockwise energy, lifting, vortex, remembering, tenderness, and love. The blue flame came in like the northern lights, flowing into the lakes, creating mists that cleaned everything in its path. The blue light has landed. Earth, grounded, feeling a tug in your navel. Go home to your navel.
Pinwheel clockwise and counterclockwise, 3, 6, 9, cleansing, electromagnetic energy, original codes of Earth, all nature spirits assist. Spin and spring load the needed water spouts, orbs, and geysers on Mother Earth. Water spouts bring a new spinning energy into the grid called the pentacle.
You need to know what to do with your staff, your wisdom, your humility, the teachings of the elders. A new earth is born. The thread of life spins again. Freedom. Seal the holes with self and the power of earth. Express one's life artfully as appreciation story.
Tribalism, place of where the wind is born. You can ask this pentagram to raise or lower the planetary winds. Lime green explosion went out in all directions. Find the flow.
Halfway between ocean and sky, many white animals came in, snowy owl, archangels, enter heaven and gave birth to new angel beings. Infinity. Women incorporate your matriarchal mother, mitochondria, DNA in your life.
Music, dance, move your hips, where land and sea meet, whirlpool, Mother Earth splendor.
Singing the songlines, awake, courage, locked energy unlocked. Reincorporate, rejoice, repair, return, reinvent, reimagine, redesign, reinstate. Molecules begin to vibrate, sound splicing geometry.
Get that gunk out. Celebration of life and creation. calling upon our inner strength, keep energy high, freedom from tether to time.
Perfect balance of feminine and masculine, pure calm, peace, sweet songs.
Heartbeat of the first day of our birth announcement. Use the elements and let them work in you. Transmutation, another world I'm writing down.
Ways of light and dark, being at peace, stillness and silence.
Unify and expanding, rise up, beacon of light. Opalescent color coming out of every point today, beaming out to space. Intention of Mother Earth through us. Birth, more than worth.
I just would like to repeat those final 2 lines. Intention of Mother Earth through us. Birth, more than worth.
Wow, I can feel this everywhere.
For me, that is the essence of spiritual sensuality and unearthing our true purpose.
Okay, so, wow.
All right, take a breath. Let's take a breath because that was like, it's so gorgeous. That is the essence of the energy of what we're birthing and what we're in the midst of. You felt it. We felt it. We wrote this poem together. And now we go into what is activating that transformation for us so that we can cooperate with it. We can interpret it in the correct way. Instead of being victims of a story, that we know that this is a conscious way of burnishing that we've chosen, that the planet is assisting us with, and that nothing is not happening in divine perfection. That this is designed by us and the mother for our own good and our own next step. You know, and people ask me about last year, and I'm still healing from 4 surgeries from an unbelievable eye of the perfect storm. And they said, oh, must have been hard for you. That must have been, and I was like, I can't say that was the most beautiful process of my awakening. I could not judge it. And so when we see what happens from what we're going through, that is the essence. And so you just heard that. That's the essence of what we're doing. And here are some of the things that you're saying in the grid.
But
that
I would
could
like
be happening.
To when we go through this final section that both of us want to bounce off, and then we'd like to hear from you. I want you to understand that we only pulled out some of the things that we felt was future predictions. When you get the follow-up email with the decoding of the grid, the paragraph of each grid point and what it's about, this is the summary of 80 pages of notes from all these years that we said all day yesterday, adding on to it. Look at it and you'll get like a very different taste than what you're seeing right now, because a lot of what's about to happen, a lot of it has a fire energy. And so we'd like you to really see the beauty of it as well in the decoding of the grid, but it would exceed our time together today. Okay, so I want to make a note on that, and you'll see that Julie and Kat seem in Arizona and Colorado seem to have tuned into a lot, like a majority of future predictions. And then it was really powerful when other grid point leaders like Sona or Adam Center or Takanaya Shane in Denmark were actually confirming that. So thank you all for your incredible work. So grid point 58.
And even before we do that, I just want to say that if you haven't sent notes in and you're watching this, we are grateful to receive them and deepen our knowledge of what we got here.
Right.
We have only named certain ones on this sheet because they were repeated. If something repeats itself 2 or 3 times in notes, then that's what becomes an alarm for us. I'm positive, or something's going to go on because more than one person is picking that up. If it's more personal, like we feel like sometimes we project our own story onto the grid and what we're going through personally, we usually can kind of separate that. And it's not that that's not important, but we prioritize the things that seem to be more on the mass scale and the collective scale for all of us.
And if you are sending us notes, I am asking you, can you please type them up? Because I've typed up so many notes from so many groups, and I'd really appreciate that bit of help. That would be
This
so
is
fantastic.
Volunteer time on our part, and this is at least 7 days of our time just for the notes. 7 days of our time, not including the pre-planning of the event and the website and all the things we do for the Blue Flame. So if you can do that for us, it really is a gift for us. So then we can just cut and paste the notes together. Because you do them by hand out in the field, we totally get that. You could snap a picture and just send them to us, but it is a lot more work for us.
Okay, so we are heading into Grid Point 58, South Pacific Ocean at the South American tip. This seems to indicate coming volcanic activity. Both Adam and Denmark, Takanayashane, were talking about lava heating up and felt a portal opening and even a tornado over the water purifying from the depths, which powerfully enough, we are in the blue lunar storm year. So every time there is wind energy, storm energy, in the year of where the Mayan people say this is the energy of this year is definitely a great confirmation.
And I just want to say that we're not going to read every single point for you because there's 22 and we could go on and you can read them eventually. But I do want to make a couple of points in that, for instance, Grid Point 57 also had volcanic activity. I started to do a little research in that area, and there is huge tectonic plates there in that area. Oh, you want to see the world map as well? That would be great. Well, we could do the
I would not do
oh,
that.
I know what we need. Yeah, thanks for that. We'll grab that in just a second. The actual areas that we're looking on the map and see if we can open that at the same time.
You can't do it with Google Earth.
Not with Google Earth, just with she's talking about the static one that we have. Give me a second and I'll find that. Thank you for that notation. There is several areas that we're going to look at here. And then I don't want to just read them all through for you because there's several other things we want to cover. But I want you to be able to, again, before we even do that, what I'd like to show you, here's the GP 58 that we said could potentially be volcanic activity. And I'm trying to find all these different things here. See if I can find that on my desktop. I'm not really good at this screen sharing proposition yet, so pardon me. I'm looking for my other one.
What are you trying to do?
I want to show the master notes for just a moment.
That's not the master, it's a decoding.
Yes, that's what I want to show. So we just said 58 may have volcanic activity this year. So here I go to the master copy now. What is this Grid Point 58 about? Sacredness and devotion to Mother Earth. Ancient codes, mantras, knowledge and wisdom. The Sri Yantra Master Code. That's the code of life. That one's getting open. Okay, so you can go in to this master when you look at these future projections of what's happening this year, and you can weave the story yourself. Okay, it says that this one is a reverse spiral, which is earthwise. When you say reversed, coiled snake, serpents spiraling south, ancestral star messages. Now, this is the summary of 5 years worth of notes. So when I'm predicting what's happening this year, I can go back to this and say, what do I need to source with this happening? What can I pray for? What can I hold open for the awakening process? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really great that you pulled that up for everyone. Well, if we're not doing all 20, then what
Well,
I
I
would
want to
like
highlight a couple.
I would
that
like
are
to
really important.
highlight for especially for our beautiful sister Patty down in Australia. We have a few very powerful ones, and you can look at this in more detail. But if I was to say from the typing of the notes, what would be, like by estimate, the area in the world that could experience the hottest heat as far as challenge, I would say it's grid point 44. Now check this out. I want you to see this. Here we are, grid point 44, Flinders Range in Australia. A lot of people have said there is, feelings of angst and violence and energy breaking apart, and it needs our energy, heat, intensity, fire. We were here watching, we, the Wanchanas, the creator beings, and we will come again. But now I'm gonna
slow down when you say that. Did you hear that, Patricia? The first ones that we got were we were here watching, we will come again.
And now get this. What Denmark came up with in the other grid point.
Wait, let's just hold there for a minute. You're moving a little too fast. So slide back down. Okay. So here
I was trying to make a connection.
I know, but we have to just let that drop in a minute. So that point, grid point 44, is north of Adelaide, Australia. It is the home of the Mutna tribe, which has the creation story of the seven sisters dreaming, which is the Pleiadian story of the seven stars or the seven sisters and Lover Boy, which is the eighth star to them. Different than the Maori have the eighth star as the mother of the Pleiades. So that is their creation story. It's where their book of life comes from. It's where their law was laid down. It is almost identical to the creation story of, not the creation story, but the story of the Lakota white buffalo calf woman who brought the seven rights to the Lakota with the pipe. She appeared to two men. The same thing happened in Australia. It's a very similar story. So this is a very powerful point on the planet. It is a galactic point of Star Nation entering the planet long ago. So it's a gateway space. And there's a lot of tension and heat here right now. And it seems to be more on the human level, on the political level, which I've already known, and maybe Patricia, there's been a lot of conflict within the Mutna with the uranium mines, the copper mines that are there, and the conflict with the younger people wanting to utilize that kind of energy.
As well as environmentally the fires that Australia experienced so roughly. But then get this now. Grid point 27, also in Australia, but it's in the north. It's the midpoint of the mouth of the Gulf of Carpentaria. Now, this is the dreaming story for the healing of grid point 44 and what's going on there.
Channeled by Takanaya in Denmark.
Listen to this. The great Aboriginal came into their ceremony in Denmark, asked for water, got water, and went home again. So he came into their ceremony, but he came to the water in the Gulf of Carpentaria to get the water energy for grid point 44, going home back to grid point 44.
Isn't that powerful?
And see how every group, not knowing from each other, is really overlapping here. Fire and water, water where water is needed, love where love is needed, a bridge. It's just so fascinating.
So look at that one in particular. Look at the story. And the Aboriginal people would say this is a dreaming story. This is a dreaming story. The way that they tell their whole creation mythos is through dreaming stories. And okay, you're reading that?
Yeah.
Okay. We have a lot of things going on. So here is the Gulf of Carpentaria. If you know Australia, it's like this mouth. That's why it's called the mouth of Carpentaria. It's like a mouth of water. And if you've ever seen images of the creation beings of Australia, they're called the Wandjina, and they don't have a mouth, because if they had a mouth, they could destroy the planet. They are these gigantic beings that come across the northern part of Australia. So I found that it was very interesting, because I don't think Takanaya knows that at all, that this great Aboriginal came, asked for water, got water, which is the Carpentaria area, and then went home again. And then we see these fire and water, a bridge, jumping over old elemental gaps, water where water is needed, love where love is needed. Super powerful, that we caught that as we went down. We went, oh my God, I think that relates to grid point 44.
I want to also, if we point out just a few, I'd like to talk about the temple underneath the lake.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Okay, and then probably we have to open it up, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Everybody's like probably like, oh my God, I got so much to
So
reflect on.
you guys can read through the rest afterwards, but let's just talk about one other point, grid point 35, South America, Peru, Lake Punum. This talks about a spiritual sun temple opening under the lake. And what you see here with Takanaya in Denmark is only one person. Our group at Whirling Rainbow Center in Homer said exactly the same thing, and so did some other people. So that's just really, really fascinating to see that people get such a parallel.
Well, I'd like to speak to that just for a moment before we sort of end this chapter now. The reason I did that is you see that we have a lot of red going on in this thing: volcanic, earthquake, conflict, earthquake or volcanic, water shortage, conflict, volcanic, fires, displacement, struggle and movement, volcanic. So what we had, conflict, but we had so much resourcing at the same time. And I just want to show a couple of those resources. Grid point 45, the Fijian Islands, is the point of dynamic healing. And this is what you said, Dawn: sacred, sensual, liberated. And to me, that's the energy that we went. This is the liberation of this, strong fire energy going on. There's the liberation point of healing. The other one she mentioned already, which was this temple that we all saw opening. And I thought it was Titicaca, because that's the story of Titicaca, and I've been to Lake Titicaca, is the temple that lives under the lake. But then when I realized, well, this is a different lake area of Peru, in the Andes, I was like, oh, I was surprised by that, because I thought for sure that would have been Titicaca. That this something opening under the lake. Okay, that's the new, just like we heard that 58, when we said 58 in the very beginning, that its resource was the original code of the Sri Yantra. To me, this is a doorway that is opening up the next level. And it's confirmed. Someone else said this year, the blue flame in that beautiful poem of the pentagrams, the blue flame got grounded. And then in the Polynesian, French Polynesia Society Islands, we get a lot of message about this is the home of the secret societies of wisdom and illumination, and sustenance. And Kat Haber said victory. There was a lot of feeling of joy, happiness, and victory here. I may be projecting here, but it feels like that the good, the true, and the beautiful is going to reign, is going to be released, and not this idea that we have of the matrix, that we're in control. And so I think that's a positive outcome maybe for our elections. So that to me was a very, very powerful one in the grid. And then we've already mentioned this healing story for grid point 44.
And then this one is a really fascinating one here at grid point 29 in the Pacific Ocean between the Marshall Islands. It's the Guardians of the Earth, and two different groups. One talked about the copper serpent moving, and another group talked about the white sea creature bringing clean energy, and the protective grid was inserted.
And that's really powerful line. A protective grid was inserted. I mean, what does that mean? Well, I really connect out with the pentagram because the pentagram is the geometric code of protection. So we are being protected as we're going through this. The copper serpent moving. Now that I just got right in this minute is an email we got from Australia, from the center of Australia last week. Remember what she said?
No.
So they want to do a ceremony on December 20th, winter solstice here, summer solstice there, that they got from the elders, that the rainbow serpent.
Yeah.
What did it say about the rainbow serpent?
That we no longer should pray for the rainbow serpent, but that the rainbow, which is is a very powerful dreaming story in Australia, especially in the Uluru area, but that the rainbow serpent would have to transform into the rainbow bridge.
Oh, that's right. And not for personally, but for the planet.
Yeah.
That's what I'll have to include that because I just got that download in this moment, that I'm connecting that to this particular channeled piece of information that we got for the Marshall Islands.
I mean, I suggest personally that maybe we cut it here so people have a chance. I think we did. Maybe you want to talk about this as a final one.
Yeah, just these two. GP22 is the source of the awakened blue beings and the renewal of the grid. That's, we can call upon that area of the Arabian Sea. That is considered where the blue beings reside and where the blue flame of renewal for the grid. This year, somebody wrote down all multi-wave colors in a beehive matrix. So that is a really nice resource, as is the Bermuda Triangle, the birthplace of new transitions. So this seems to be our birthplace of the transition that we're going through, is the Bermuda Triangle. Now, the Bermuda Triangle, as you know, is one of the 12 devil's graveyards, as they call them on the planet, the triangle points, and they are all portals between the Earth grid and the star grid. They are gateways that help people come into this planet. And so that's very, very powerful to another email that we've received lately about ET showing up.
Right,
right. About the Arcturians. So
yeah, I think we're good here.
Yeah, I'm not, we could go on because there's just so much in here, and I want to give you a chance to digest a little bit of it and ask questions, add all your stories that you've been, whether you confirm this, whether you have something else altogether.
Yeah, and please unmute yourself. All of you are muted at the moment, and jump in.
But I'd just like to address Patricia for the moment and saying I'd really like, when you get that, to pass that on to, your communities, pass that on to the elders of what we've been receiving, and how they might be able to move through that in the dream time.
Let me unmute you, Patty.
No, she's not muted.
We can't hear her.
We don't hear you yet, Patty, so. But anybody can jump in. It'll all happen.
Patty is trying to talk, but we can't hear you, Patty.
There you are.
I am unmuted.
Yeah,
can you hear me?
There you are.
Hello?
Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I've taken out this. I can't hear me, but you can perhaps. I haven't actually put in our notes yet. We did a Zoom ceremony here, and I just went over the Zoom yesterday to decode and take the notes. But when you're talking about grid point 44 in as you were, the theme that came through for us, which ties into what you've been saying too, is that that we're going back to the ancient original blueprint of purity for Mother Earth from that point. And that there's a clearing away of like an ash clearing away from the whole solar plexus of the world there. And the igniting of the fire of a sun disk is expanding, but there's a battle of wills happening, conflict and battle of wills is happening there at the moment, and there's quite a lot of turbulence there. And when you talked about the grid point 27 that links with that, I've actually been there myself and experienced that link from grid point 44 to 27 and had a beautiful thing. My actual personal Chiron line runs through that very point. I went there in 2000. I had a big healing there personally as well. The theme came through there for singing up the new earth, singing the tone of our soul song, going through the sort of the eye of the needle. It came in with that fifth ray and the throat chakra and everything. So there was a lot of singing going on, singing up the new earth. And this is what the Indigenous people do here, of course, is they sing up the song lines. And we did a lot of singing actually in the ceremony as well. Another point that you made just before with the Aboriginal ceremony that's happening at Uluru on the 21st of December, and you said there in your notes that there's sort of like a copper, I don't know what you said, something about a copper implant or something, that there is, there has, and you may have received that in your email, White Eagle, that there is actually a black little magic box that's going to be opened up on that time, at that time, which has been there for eons, but now is the time to open it up. And it actually holds codes for the new earth. So it's going to be a really, really powerful ceremony. And again, yes, the Rainbow Bridge Home. There was a ceremony at the beginning of the year, we joined in that ceremony from here in Canberra too, at Uluru, where this rainbow serpent came down to start that building of that rainbow bridge. So I will see, I might be a bit late, but I will type up those notes for you, because as you've been talking, I've seen that we have a lot of common things happening there as well. So, and I love the point that you made too with the point, where was it? 22, yeah, in the Indian Ocean there. One of the participants in the ceremony here, we did it on Zoom, but saw a tanned man with a big smile, well, an Aboriginal man with a big smile, and he was saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you."
Wow.
So,
okay.
That was very powerful.
Getting that. Beautiful, incredible. I'd love those notes. We'd love those notes.
I can't hear what you're saying now, so
Oh, okay.
I'll have to put my earplugs in again, just a second.
Okay. Well, we are thrilled to have your notes. So, I just talked to Yana. I don't know if you know who Yana Love is, but she is doing a big ceremony always in New York. She was really bummed she hadn't gotten her notes to me yet as well. This morning she checked in. So we have a lot of things that were in flux, but we do this a month later to get you moving and so we can compile. It's a lot of work, and we want that because you put so much effort into this ceremony, and we want to be able to utilize it for ourselves and to serve the larger whole with some information and how to navigate these times. So thank you for that input.
Awesome. Thank you, Patty. Someone else jump in.
So I will. Good morning.
Good morning, sweetheart.
I'm in Arizona. In fact, I'm going to go down to the Patagonia Lake in the next day or two.
Go see Julie.
Yeah, just to check it out. So I'm here in Arizona for a little bit, but I did want to say, so next year, I believe it's really important, the way you had the pentagrams set up on the individual pages, to again put beside each one a note area, like lines, so that people just maybe add words or whatever, just phrases instead of big sentences. But just to let everybody else know how we did it was we had one person as simply the scribe. and it worked out really good. And it appears that we did have fairly decent notes, right, Michaela? Is that what you said?
Beautiful, and whoever did the handwriting at least made it super easy for me to decode.
We particularly picked somebody with good handwriting, so that was
I like it.
Yeah, but before I sent them off to you, I happened to go through the list that you had compiled up to this point, and I was amazed at how much uncanny things that related to each other. So to me, I find it really, really fascinating as you guys share with us the information and you compile it. Next year, I believe that it's even more important to be cognizant of the feelings and all the things that are coming up, and yeah, just great information. And I think it will help each ceremony become even a little bit more streamlined and more intense, and the purpose for doing it. So anyway, yeah, it was very, and this was a little change this year, so it took us a little bit to get in the groove. And but now I feel like this whole process is going to be perfect. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Well, you know, you're our sister brother group up there in Anchorage, and we love that you're doing it. And Anne's here on the call too, and
yes,
she
is.
Yeah. Place. And you know what we're going to have for next year is this stuff's going to be on the website. There'll be you know, so I won't have to be emailing, you know, oh, I can't open that. I've got such a wonderful thing happening this year with a mini grant that we received from the city.
Oh, yes.
That we are able to put all of that into online programming and getting this all more squared away with. So that means I don't have to skimp on our webmaster. I can say to her, yes, you can do that for me, because usually I can't afford it. So, you know, we can get this a little bit more streamlined for next year. Just as a notation, the way in which we've been doing it, and you know, it may be more efficient the way you are, is that we stand around, at least 5 of us stand the pentagram around the fire. So we have those points that are in the corner and make that pentagram between those points. So how we do it, we say you're 25, you're 26, and we stand around. We're the ones, everybody else is just moving the energy, playing the instruments, doing whatever. And we rotate that position every pentagram. Okay, so not everybody has to do the points, and you tune in to that point. Okay?
You're responsible for
You're
that
responsible
point.
just to tune into that point. And then we leave the clipboard, and the music's going. They don't have to stay in that position. They can just move around. They're channeling whatever they get. Then they walk over to that clipboard and they put down what they get. And then I keep an eye on the clipboard, and when I see all 5 points are done, then we're ready to do the prayer and culminate it. Usually for us, it's like the music is reaching its zenith, like it all kind of choreographs itself, because we pay attention to the energy. It's like, that doesn't feel done yet, or it does feel done. The notes are there, but there's a few more minutes because the music hasn't stopped. And usually the music will just, you know, Dave was great on the drum at our ceremony, and he would just all of a sudden be changing the tune, and we'd know that that was complete, and then we'd start the invocation of the Blue Flame Prayer. But we would read them in the pentagram. So before we read the prayer, we'd go and create that pentagram with the words that we came up with. So we'd pass that clipboard, da, across the 5, da, da, and so we would hear the whole thing. And then I would just go, oh, well, that's a theme. And then I would put the theme on the top of the page, that all of that kind of made sense. Sometimes it didn't have a theme, but most of the times you could really see when you drew that pentagram what the energy was. And then we moved to the next pentagram. So that's the way we kind of found that it moves quickest, and everybody gets to tune in. You know, everybody in the past, and I appreciate you saying that, I think people are just starting to appreciate the importance of what we do. That, you know, everybody wanted to just like be in their right brain and just kind of dance around the fire for 4 hours or something. And that's wonderful. You know, there would be nothing in that. But what we are gaining from this kind of intimacy with the grid, and that we are all intuitive and we all get messages. And yes, some are, you know, more used to doing it than others, but it calls everybody into being an energy worker. And that's why I like it.
Perfect.
Okay. Anybody jump in? Come on, you guys, like 5-year-olds, like run to the board. Yeah, there you go, Tony.
Hello. Great to see everybody. I'm new to the community, so this was my first time being in the Blue Flame Planetary Grid ceremony. And so I wasn't with a group, but it was just me. I was on vacation. And I noticed that prior to getting there, and I won't go down the bunny trails, but there was a lot of personal work with the Blue Flame that I was experiencing. And so I'm grateful for that. And then on the day of the ceremony, it was really beautiful how I was able to set up, even though I had some weather conditions outside. And because it was just me, I've made sure, and as I was reading through each grid point, so I individually read every single grid point personally, and then I would check in with the entire group. So I would ask for some images just to assure myself that I was connected overall to the larger group. So what I didn't put in the notes, and it just came to me a couple of days, Michaela and White Eagle, was that at one point, it was probably about maybe a quarter of the way in, as I was checking in, I saw an image, pretty vivid, White Eagle, of your hand with that white feather staff that you have, or that wand with the white feathers, like from your wrist up. So I saw that. So I knew I was connected. So that was beautiful. And so I had to take it inside for a portion, and then I was able to go out to the beach after that and take the ceremony actually on the beach. And then I stayed in ceremony. Once I completed and closed the actual ceremony, I stayed in ceremonial space the entire rest of the day, which was beautiful because that was really important. And then I closed out kind of mid-morning the next day, but a phenomenal experience. And I'm looking forward to where I could be in the community for the next one, so I can experience all of the other components that I didn't get to see kind of physically. So deep honor and gratitude for all this beautiful work. Thank you.
Well, you see how sweet Tony is, and Tony is just completed 4 days of the community drum keepers training. She's going to be building her drum, our community drum, here in November via Zoom. Imagine that. Like, never has this ever taken place in the history of this organization. Have we trained community drum keepers on Zoom? And so this will be our 5th day of training, as well as Dave just completing that training, because Melinda's been a drum keeper, and now he gets to be the other half of that in a beautiful way. And so we have 5 or 6 new drum keepers. 6. Well, Sage has just come on. She's taken over Julie's drum, and they're just completing their training. I think we have 6, because we have another woman who's stepping in from Australia, from New South Wales, who is a drum maker, and she makes hand drums, beautiful hand drums, and she wants to be part of our network. So she's just starting the videos of the Zoom classes so she can make her drum. So this was not expected. We had thought we were going to cancel that program this year, and all of a sudden I had Sage get a drum, and I thought, I have to train her, and then all of a sudden a few other people started stepping in. Now we have like 7 people, and that's usually what we have at a training, 7 to 10 people. So this year we have new drum keepers, and welcome Tony and welcome Dave and Sage to being not only Blue Flame leaders, which is what we really want of our community drum keepers. We want them to be both, so that they are holding that energy, and that once a year they're at least doing that ceremony with us. So fantastic to have you. And yes, maybe you'll be with us, who knows, for next year's Tony. Get to see Alaska and how we bear the elements. Kat Haber's been with us so many years, Julie. Those two did it together again this year, but they were like rock solid in Alaska with us, wind, rain, sleet, whatever that we have here at that time of year. So, all right, so somebody else jump in.
So, yeah. my mind, you know how my mind works by now, being the engineer mind. I'm always looking at diagrams and planes and things like that. In a meditation about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, the whole meditation was focused on the blue flame. And this year we took pentagrams, but the pentagrams were on planes that basically vertically sliced the planet. Mm-hmm. My mind was taking those pentagrams and starting to rotate them into three-dimensional space. And when I saw what you had put with regards to trauma point and resource point, that all came very clear as to why that was going on, because what my mind was doing is it was connecting those points, because if you look at where those are, like, what is it? And I can't remember from what the list had, but it was like 22 and 44. Well, those are not in the same pentagram. Mm-hmm. And so what this was the rotation of those pentagrams to connect those trauma and resource points. And so getting that layout of what you guys did is going to be very interesting to see how that all starts to connect in rotational space.
Oh, that sounds like a great job for you, Dave. Whenever anybody says let's, that means they're volunteering already.
Yeah.
You have the three-dimensional mind for it. Yeah, absolutely.
But that was quite an amazing meditation in association with that, and what you said today and how that all put together puts that now into perspective. And I think I understand it a little bit better, and there's some more dynamic connections there to be really looked at.
Exactly. And that's, what Kat was saying, let's see that map, let's get those points. And what I'd like to do with that decoding of the grid, those little paragraphs, is literally like sort of cut and paste them onto the globe itself and sort of read the resources as they are in the pentagram, not just what we came up with this last 2 years that we made that poem of, but the actual 5 years of summary, and just weave the story of the earth and all of her body, and what her body consciousness allows us to tap into in any specific area, and the synergy that happens between the points.
If I could suggest, there are two tools that can help analyze this multi-dimensional puzzle. One is, so Julie was at her lake and I was here in isolation in Vail, and we connected virtually. I scribed everything using a Google Sheet. That's why I could get it to you so quickly, because I took notes as everything was happening. And what it made me realize is that you could pre-populate a Google form and you could have all of that information you would have 64 questions, one for each point. And all of that data can be embedded in each question. And then each person, each group of each point, you'll have 64 responses. And then there's another tool called Searchie, SEARCHIE, and you use it to actually search for patterns. And it can help you analyze and synthesize the deeper patterns that may not be apparent right away.
Very cool. Yeah, I've been thinking too about making a spreadsheet that has the data in it and people actually write into it. And it does it more automatically than even, you were super helpful with your typed up notes. But then again, I still had to copy and paste it. And what I did, because I was in the master in one grid point, I would have all these documents of the different groups open and take
We're still doing
the information of each group in that particular grid point and paste it into the masters, because I was from the 80 pages, I was in that grid point right now. But I was thinking about that.
It would so simplify it for all of us who are scribing our answers. We just boom, 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 go down each one of the points. We put our information in there. You'll get one sheet with 64 responses for every one of the 64 points. Bam, it's all right there. You're not going to have to spend all of this time assembling different kinds of emails, and it'll
Yeah, I think the issue with that we've had is we have such right brain people that no one was tech savvy, and just to get notes, I'm still trying to get notes. I've got half, probably not even half the people that did the ceremony gave me notes. Like,
I offer to create this form for you for next year.
okay,
I can do that easily.
okay.
Super. So
Okay.
then we'll give you the masters. I like all of it.
Yep, and I'll just create 64 questions and you send that link to everyone. They just fill out the form and then all the information is there for you to analyze.
Thank you. Super.
That sounds incredible. That, you know, it's there is something to, you know, the manual part of it that's one of the reasons I have done, and she has. It's like we learn so much as we are sitting there doing it. Like there's just this interaction with the material, but this would certainly quicken that process, so we wouldn't have to be doing this and just going over it and extracting. And this piece is like the emails we get from Australia about, you know, the rainbow serpent turning into the rainbow bridge, seeing 27 and knowing that and the way Australians understand the evolution of their land through the dreaming stories, and having, you know, 27 Carpentaria, this elder showing up with the water for 44. And so, you know, it's putting together all these mythos that are operating within those grids and decoding them, you know, to some degree. And I think that we're all just so grateful to each other for this ceremony, because I would really like to, and I'd like to put this out to each of you, maybe particularly you, Kat, because you may know some people, or Dave might, is someone who is doing, there is the megalithic conference, I mean, Sage would also know, is opportunities where we could present this material. I tried calling the Ions because they have something, a project that they like pulse on the earth and stuff like that, and nobody got back to me. So although then last week Ions contacted me about being part of a survey for them for something else. So I'm going to wind up talking to them this week. But there are groups that would really benefit from this information, both in the metaphysical community and in the larger community, because we devoted a lot of time as a collective to hours and hours of holding this energy. And it's not just for our 60 leaders, you know, it's for the world. So I'm trying to find ways that we can present this information as early warnings of what might be going on the planet, because we have been accurate in many, many times to predicting where earthquakes were going to take place or volcanic activity.
The only part we wound up not talking about, and let me just drop it with one sentence, is Grid Point 6 here in Alaska, out on the Aleutian chain. Several groups talked about a fissure opening, releasing gases. So
we just had a 7.8 earthquake out there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and that was in the notes. Yeah, we can certainly go back through some of those highlights if you want to, but I wanted to give you guys more chance to talk and share your own ceremonies as well. But you're going to get all that information, and you're going to get the opportunity to look at the master and look at that decoding. That's what we call decoding the grid, which is our 5 years of research and what those essential energies are about. Remember we did elements one year. We said, is it an earth grid? Is it a water grid? You know, what is it? Galaxy 6.
Tarina.
Oh, Tarina. And we also have, whether it's, I want to thank Sona also while I'm here. Sona from California, also one of our Crystal Skull Method graduates. She did all of this year. She told me if it was a vortex counterclockwise or clockwise, where those currents were going to and from. That was really powerful.
That was really cool.
So that really has added another dimension to those decoding notes is that we know which way those currents are moving as well. And that may be what's going on the planet in general from scientific information that we could research. But I think it was really, really wonderful.
Sage, jump in. You unmuted yourself.
Okay, so last year when we did the pentagram, I just got so discombobulated. I guess I got too attached to the points. And this year I didn't want to be so discombobulated. And but next year I'm going to do the pentagram, because what happened was we had 2 full circles at the same time. So we were here in the fires. So we actually were able to have a fire because Petra, who we do it on her land, ceremonial land, has a fire marshal right next door. So she got permission for us to do the fire, because you couldn't do any fires.
Yeah.
Anywhere in Oregon or California. And we had a water ceremony. So we had two 9-pointed stars next to each other.
Wow.
It was really amazing because, but it was like a learn as you go, because we had 9 of us at the ceremony. So we would do the fire point, and then we would all move over and do the water on the same point. Then we would go back and do the next point, and then go and do the water. And then about halfway through, I was like, oh yeah, this is not going to work. We are going to be here all night long. And we start at nighttime anyway, because all of us work. So we ended up having, splitting up the group into.
Oops, we're frozen. You're frozen. Well, is everybody else? Nobody else is frozen. She's frozen. Sage is frozen. She may have to come back in. We'll see. It's her connection, probably.
Are you able to send me that, the master, now? So while we're having this conversation, I can get started on that?
She means the 80 pages.
You mean the 80 pages?
Yeah.
You have it.
Okay. Yeah, but it's not the themes. No, I have to do an edit, Cat.
Okay.
You know, we should probably wait because Yana said she's going to send hers in, and then Patricia, if you can send yours, and then we can kind of polish up what we have a little bit, because the more notes we have, the better accuracy we have
Right.
to what's overlapping.
I was just thinking to set up the form for next year.
Oh, okay.
I just had the questions. I can get started on that, not necessarily analyze what you have this year.
When you mean the questions, you just mean the grid point, like
Yeah.
grid point 5, or, you know, just the
And
well, we remember there's 62 grid points, but we do 64 because we do the whole and then we do ourselves. So we do 64.
So we started with the North and the South poles.
Well, this is different because of doing it in the pentagrams.
Okay.
Yeah, we're doing it in sets of 5, except for the North and South Pole, which are 6, because the center of the pentagram on the North and South Pole is the North or South Pole. So we started from the South Pole and moved our way up into the plains. We have 2 at the equator, and so you have 1 through 5 below the equator, 6 and 7 at the equator, and then 8 through 12 above the equator.
So what I'm actually going to suggest is, let me just do my edit, which is the essence, the decoding has to also go in the original master that has all the year's notes in every grid point.
Well,
I will send you that, and you can set this up. And I'm going to ask Patricia and Jana to wait until you generated us this spreadsheet, and then you guys can write into that spreadsheet yourselves.
There's 2 things. The decoding of the grid I don't want in there, because I don't want anybody influenced when they're entering new information. We used to do that. We used to kind of read off what we had so far, and we're not doing that anymore because it influences people to channel something. So it's fresh information every time. If it overlaps with the decoding, which oftentimes it does, that makes it even more convincing that this part of the earth is resonating a field of this kind of energy. So, you know, this would be an open document like that we can enter
There's a few
information.
things we'll just talk about, not in the meeting, and then we'll get back with you. Yeah. Okay, Sage, you're back on.
Okay, sorry, bad internet.
We're about
connection.
here with the 2 ceremonies, and it got late.
Yes. Okay, so I got 2 ceremonies going on, but then it was going to take like way too long. So we split the group up, and one was a blue flame, and the other actually I was told to do the violet flame. And so the water element, we did the violet flame. So we would call out the elements at the same, you know, call out the grid point, and then everybody would do their prayers together in the 2 circles. But the power of having the water element and the fire element going on at the same time was really amazing. So we're going to do the same thing next year with the pentagrams, so that we'll have them with the water and the fire. And the amazing thing was that the next day after our ceremony, it poured down rain. It started pouring down rain that night, and it poured, and Oregon needed it so bad that day. So that was super fun. And so Spirit told me in the middle, because I was praying like, this is taking way too long. I could feel everybody's tension. We're going to be here till 3 o'clock in the morning. And then they just told me, split it up, do it simultaneously at the same time. So we took the violet flame energy also into whatever conflict was coming up on the planet that was coming into our field of information. We would use the violet flame to transmute all the energy in that place on the planet. Mm-hmm. And we would hold the violet flame and the blue flame together so that it felt like it was balancing the masculine and feminine energies more, because the violet flame is the perfect balance, but it was bringing in the divine feminine and the water element. And it felt really important to balance those frequencies on the planet for us. So that was that.
I love hearing all of these learnings. It's you know, we're always learning and we're always expanding our knowledge of this work. What I'd like to make note of too, and then we're going to do is, you know, we did with your wonderful blue flame elemental prayer that's been included, which again, we will have a more complete download for everybody next year, that it's just easily downloadable, you know, because it's, you know, we have so many things going on, but by then we'll have that all up there. And also, Sona asked me this for her ceremony, because she also couldn't make a fire. And we had come up with the elemental prayer because it's blue water, blue lightning, blue fire. You know, we came up with that to tap the ones that we absolutely needed in that area. And we used that prayer with the blue flame prayer whenever we need it in any grid point. We just call upon that elemental energy to come stronger in that area. Now, I've been asked about, you know, making rain and bringing rain to the fire areas. And I'm personally very experienced at that, and have songs specifically for that. And I made her a private thing. I didn't put it out publicly, or maybe I did, I don't remember. That people could read about how to align to elementals and work with elementals on a regular basis, not just when you need something. It's like any relationship, it has to be built, and to always and forever ask that the highest good be done, that whatever you're asking for, only in the highest, if it's the highest good, and only in the amount that's in the highest good. So if we're going to be working with calling in, and we have the power of the Creator, all of us do, to be God and wield our power to do something like that. But it's about building relationships with the thunder beings. It's about really, really coming into that ongoing prayer and only utilizing that request when it's absolutely needed. And so we did do that. We did do that here in Alaska a few years ago when we had fires here coming closer to our place, and we're able to bring the rains. And you obviously were very, very successful in just the blue flame ceremony, having the water ceremony as part of it, being really successful with that. And I want to make that another part of our Blue Flame download that people can learn a little bit more about working with elementals if they're going to do a different ceremony, or they're going to call in rains, or la 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 la, and that we have a little bit of protocol around that, so that we're in alignment with spirit and with the Greater Mother in that divinity. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love that you did fire and the water ceremony at the same time. That's so creative. I love all the new things that are coming up that you guys think about. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone else want to jump in and share?
I see that Anne's on the call, and it looks like.
Yes, I just want to say to Sage, when we did the first ray and the South Pole, the theme for the whole ceremony really that we did was this balancing of fire and water. So that really fits in with what you were doing, Sage. Sage. So that this imbalance of fire and water needs to be addressed on the planet generally. So that's a very interesting point there. Yeah,
I agree with you. Our fire almost got out of control. In fact, the side parts that Julie built burnt.
Mm-hmm.
So we were right next to the lake, and as the fire was, like, there was vegetation around that could have caught. And just looking at Australia, Alaska, Colorado, all of these places are having really wild fires. Your statement about balancing fire and water, so true right now.
Well, let's really think about this, and feel into this as we do so well. Is that maybe
before you do that,
mm-hmm.
White Eagle?
Mm-hmm.
Before you do that, can I just add one thing I wanted to add, because then I can let you go on, do your thing. I wanted to explain how we did the water. So I have crystal bowls. I have 9 crystal bowls. So we took 2 crystal bowls, and we had crystal bowls that was full of water with lots of flowers. We put rose petals inside of the bowl. So everybody would take a scoop of the water, say the prayer for the grid point, and then pour it into the other bottle, into the other bowl. And that's how we, instead of putting the offerings, like, the offerings for the food and everything was happening in the fire ceremony, but the offering was the prayers and the violet flame and the rose petals into the crystal bowl of the other one. So it was actually really beautiful.
I wish I would see a little video clip.
That's so gorgeous. And I'm just feeling that just the same way that, I was hung upside down in pentagrams, and Dave saw the pentagrams now rotating. And we get this idea of, the intensity of the initiation we're going through, and the cooling of resourcing. And so I feel like what we're being asked to, and it also is something that we've all spoken to so many times, the balance of masculine and feminine. This planet is mostly water. It's a female planet, and we are burning. So that says that we're totally out of balance. And, as a therapist, and maybe, Sage sees people every single day also, is that, I really think what's underlying the human condition right now is not depression, but exhaustion. And I think this is why COVID is spreading so much. It's exhaustion. And so it's all about breathing, and it's all about being able to breathe. And so it's this intensity of fire. And I'm the perfectly guilty one that went through this initiation last year, where I had 100 times the adrenaline that I should have had in my blood. And that's from touring the world at such a rapid rate and intense schedule. So I had to take accountability for my own journey, that I traveled with this drum to help people get in alignment with rhythm and being in the correct rhythm with Mother Earth. And I wind up with an adrenal tumor. So this idea of the masculine fire and intensity balanced with the feminine water is something that we really need to consider as we ignite a blue flame every year for this ceremony. So, and yes, we've used the elemental prayer, but maybe we have to adjust this now to temper this fire so that it can be a creative fire and not a burnout fire. And for all of us in all different ways when we hear that. Like, it's not just socially or politically that we're seeing race riots and all of the things that are going on that are intense fire and aggression, and bringing that tempered flame to cool the central nervous system of the planet and ourselves, and to bring up those living waters of grace. So I'd like to consider that. And my beautiful sister down in the corner there, I haven't heard from you in ages and ages. I love you, girl. How are you?
Really, really fantastic. So much is happening. I'm taking a visionary leadership program right now, which is just like exploring my depths and stuff. But I really wanted to speak to what you said, because I missed the ceremony, but what you said just now, I use the Ishtaba breath, which is, oh my gosh, I have heart palpitations when things happen, whether it's, my going to 5D or whatever, but it is so powerful. And I really want to encourage people to do that in these times of stress and exhaustion. And also our exhaustion comes because we continue unknowingly, I think, in the male paradigm, which is go, 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 work, work, work. And you're talking about the flow of nature and the water. It's the ebb and flow, the ebb. And we always do the flow, but we neglect the ebb, which is when we withdraw. And I feel like the new moon time, when the moon disappears, we all need to disappear for those 3 days and regenerate, rejuvenate, whatever. I used to, oh my gosh, whenever the new moon came, I was just a basket case falling apart because there was no moon to lift me that energy of the female, the wisdom, the grandmother. So that's about it. I just popped in today because I saw, all of a sudden I saw it. I thought, oh my gosh, I get to see you, even if I didn't do the ceremony, and to see Michaela and hear Michaela is just so beautiful. I love you so much. You're just such a guiding light in my life, like a moonlight, the glow, the radiance. So, okay.
I love you, sister. This sister walks.
I love you so much, my Aquarian sister.
Yeah.
What?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
Well,
you.
we had
Thank you all for all the blessings
hour
of
and
the
a
work.
half point, everyone, and WinQuest. I'm just curious, did you want to jump in quickly? I'm going to unmute you.
Oh, she did.
Oh, she did.
I'm unmute.
There you are.
I love everything that everybody said. The one thing that I felt about our blue flame ceremony is that we need to bring the group together in just a little bit of a different way so that we're all in harmony with what we're doing. Everybody was very willing and cooperative to read all the points and all, but I wasn't real sure that everybody knew what we were doing. The spirit and the beautiful energy was there, and so spirit always takes that and does what it needs to do with it. But I thought it might deepen us all a little bit if we this is being recorded, right? Because
yes.
I would just love to have everybody listen to this, because I think it would awe them of what this was all about. It certainly did create awe in me. Mm-hmm. So that was my only. My yard loves the ceremony. Mm-hmm. It looks forward to it. The trees are always so happy afterwards, and I just love the idea of the fire and the water. Mm-hmm. That's just absolutely wonderful, beautiful. Love to see that incorporated.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to pray on that. Everybody can give me feedback too if they get some really great guidance on that. I'm wondering if it's helpful that at some point we just do a very short, like 10-minute video on this ceremony that you could have to open your ceremonies, that people do have that alignment together, or whether you're just comfortable doing that yourselves, that may help people to kind of like plug in to the larger ceremony. We're working on a lot of video projects this year, so we've got plenty of time before next year to like think about what would make it like just like clockwork, and that we get more leaders, because we did it originally to have the 62 points held, but we're all holding all of them, as we know, and then we're praying for one in particular every day. But we can have many, many leaders for this ceremony around the world. And I also want to make it more accessible to individuals doing it alone, as well as like the bigger ceremonies that we're doing that are all day long. That Tony was more doing something on her own, and what would that look like for just the general public to participate in it. Kat, you're in this bigger world stuff. I'd love feedback on that, so that we can get a lot of people involved, and this can be an interactive thing where, like you said, we can see in video all these parts of the planet, and it light up over there and go, we say this is going on, and we have this information that is accessible. And we're holding down the fort here, but with volunteers and a couple of other staff that are part-time. So we need as much help as possible to get this tighter. It was a seed I planted 7 years ago. It's coming into its starting to sprout now, as in almost every program we're doing is like budding right now. So COVID's been the opposite for us. It's just boomed everything. So we're needing to be more and more efficient with everything. So we appreciate that.
Well, I think.
And what about Melinda? You're silently sitting there, girl. Are we going to hear from you?
Well, good morning. I've been enjoying listening to everybody. A lot of inspirational information has come across. Looking forward to future Blue Flame ceremonies with some of this new input. This will be very nice. But in retrospect, looking at our past one we just did this year, I really like the flow of doing the pentagrams and basically assigning the points to everybody. I think that was a really nice flow because, like you said, it did help people to step in that may not have share or tune in, and I found that to be very fulfilling, and so I liked having that, and all the other parts that we did. I mean, with the drumming and the music and the flutes and everything else and the guitar, it was a beautiful ceremony, and so I'm inspired to look forward to another one in the future. So. And
I have to say, for the first time at our ceremony, we had equal men and women. And that was very exciting for us. And we had a nice group, nice sized group. And because we did it the way we did with the pentagrams, and we just told people, we had Julie's big map out, we had this globe out. We said, you can go up to it, see where it's located. If we're assigning, you're getting 22, you're getting this, and, just tune in for 10 minutes. We had these young men, they did a fabulous job. They just jumped right in and they were able to get it really quickly. One was the beautiful guitarist that played a beautiful song for us, but he's young energy workers, and they just were so capable because the structure was there, but it was fluid enough that they could see how it worked and they could step right in. So I think I'm going to, prepare for you guys a video about the pentagram and how easy it is to do it that way, and how we start to get now the synergy of points going on, not just individual decodings, but how that interacts through Mother Earth to the other side in this pentagram. It's very, very beautiful. So what I'm going to take of the 12 pentagrams now is I'm going to rearrange the grid in the pentagrams themselves, not 1 through 62 or 62 through 1, but in the actual pentagram, so you can see the decoding that way. The 5 points and all the summaries we've made of those and how they connect to each other in the grid. So that is a very, very powerful part of the next step. So
thank you so much. This was so juicy and enlivening, and so excited that we got to share. And you'll get some emails with follow-ups next week from us. And
any other final comments before we wrap it up? Because we've said a lot, and I want you to have a chance to jump in. Go for it, Tony.
Yes, I think what was important for me also was beyond the ceremony day, and then that daily prayer. I had grid point 58, so that daily prayer with grid point 58, and then just that ongoing commitment. I think it's really important for me. I created a little medicine bundle packet for grid point 58 that I have on my altar, just because I didn't want to forget, and just make sure that I stayed with that beyond ceremonial day. So I just wanted to share that, and that felt important to me.
Fantastic. And when you, in fact, we opened up talking about the volcanic activity at 58. So I want you to look, when you get the decoding of the grid and you see that little paragraph that's about your point, you could literally just print that out, cut and paste it onto your little, or tag it onto your little prayer bundle, and you have the essence of the energy of that point that you can resource throughout the year. So it's a really nice way to like just read that. It's like a prayer, you know, that each of you had created with the poetry that I put together for each point, and it's resourcing. So we look forward to getting more data. If you have feedback, please, we're totally open to your feedback. And also, if you want to see this water fire ceremony, the blue flame, whatever it's going to be called from here, that we consider opening that doorway, that we need to either make it all elements, you know, and call it something else, or we're going to focus on the fire and water. I want you to pray about that. I want you to give us feedback on that, because that reshapes the way in which we do things with it. The blue flame and the blue grid in general is our web of life. So how we care for that and how we invoke that is very, very important. And are we somewhat responsible for the fires going on with our flame that we work with, and not a balance of both? So that's a big thing to throw at the end of this conference as a responsibility to us all. And so we need to consider that. We need to consider, are we igniting something across the planet that is not in complete alignment? And we're all questioning that in a good way. I think that what's going on is larger than just this group, but our intention is powerful. So we have to take accountability for that intention.
Sweet.
Could I please request, if you haven't voted, please vote. This is a possibly transformational time for us for we the people to have our voices impact our political system. Please vote if you haven't.
Sweet. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to end our meeting on this beautiful 396 solfeggio.
Sacred ones, grandmothers, grandfathers, guardian spirits, ancient ones, the elemental kingdom, all who walk with us and oversee this planetary grid. We come in humility to this sacred land, to this planet, knowing that we were called to be earth keepers, to be grid keepers, to temper what we're experiencing, to assist in any way we can, to let ourselves be conduits for this enormous transformation and transmutation we have chosen to be initiated in. Help us to understand that initiation. Help us to know our correct place, the right time, the right person, the right action, so that we may unearth our true purpose here in absolute alignment, the Holy Mother and the Holy Father within and around us. We come in deep thanksgiving that this community is strong, its medicine is clear, its hearts are open, its ears are listening, its feet are walking, Its ears are listening even deeper. And our willingness to be shaped, to be burnished, to be melted is complete in you, with you, and for the generations to come. We are the ones we've been waiting for, and we are taking our place. E aloha e. Mahalo nui.
Hey,